All right. Thank you everyone for joining today for the Energy Healing Masterclass. My name is Kristen and I'm super excited that you're here. I'll share a little bit about me and then we're going to drop in with a little energy activity and go from there. So again, my name is Kristen. I'm the founder of Roots of Radiance Reiki. I'm a Reiki teacher. I've been working with the Reiki energy for the past 5 years, been trained by multiple teachers to both hold space with Reiki, teach Reiki, and give Reiki sessions. Been a huge ally in my own journey. I'm also a certified spiritual life coach. So I help folks to really tune into their inner power and reclaim that power so that they can live in more empowered ways in this world. And then I also am an embodied group facilitator. So you'll experience some of that in this session today. So we're talking about energy medicine, and today we're going to focus specifically on kind of that power reclamation and that ability for us to reclaim and rebuild our energy. So I saw in the chat that Erica says she's feeling kind of low energy. I too am feeling like low energy, kind of like lazy. The sun's out, so I can feel my energy building. But I would like us to just land in this space. Our energy is in constant flux and constant change. And when we give ourselves an opportunity to connect in with our energy, we can often find ways to rebuild it and really restore our energy. So without talking too much, I want to invite us all into our bodies, into our energy. So that might look like for you letting your eyes close to kind of let your mind know that we're going within. Maybe it looks like wiggling a little bit, moving your body so that you can get settled. Maybe you feel moved, you want to lay down, you want to stand. Really let yourself listen to your energy. Let your energy lead you here and do what feels right for you. I'm going to stay sitting. And I invite you to just kind of take a couple of breaths with yourself, just coming back to yourself. If it feels right, you can place hands on your body. That always helps me to let myself know that I'm here for myself, that I'm tuning in. We'll let our breath just kind of move us here. I'm going to invite the Reiki to work with each of us here in a way that is perfect for us in this moment. And as you breathe here, we're going to do a slight visualization to help fill ourselves back up with our own power. So I invite you to, on your next inhale, imagine that with your breath, you are calling back your power. You're calling back your creative might. You're calling back all of your power with your breath. And as you breathe in, that power is moving inside of you. Maybe you can feel it enter and mingle with your heart space. And as you breathe out, I want to invite you to imagine that your body is like a balloon and that breath is filling your entire body up like a balloon. So with every inhale, we're inviting our power into our bodies. And with every exhale, we're inviting that power to fully fill us up. Breathing in, inviting that power in. Breathing out, feeling that power radiate all the way down our legs, all the way down to our toes. Breathing in, calling our power back. Breathing out, letting that power fill up our entire core. Letting our bodies move as they need to move here, readjust or realign in any ways that feel right. Continuing to call our power back in and let that power radiate and fill all the way down to our fingertips. Maybe letting our awareness fall on places that we might ignore sometimes. So Calling that power into our bodies on our inhale, and on our exhale, maybe filling the area where our armpits are. Calling that power into our body with our inhale, and maybe letting that breath fill our groin area or the inner line of our legs. Really letting your awareness guide you here, letting that power fill every crevice, every space within you. Calling that power in again with an inhale, and inviting that breath to move even to that space between where our brain sits and where our skull meets it, filling all of that space within our mind area, within our head. Maybe even inviting that power to fill the space between our joints. Letting that power reside in our shoulders and in our neck. Maybe even feeling it fill the cavities of our mouth and throat, really reigniting that power for us to express. And I invite you to take a few more breaths here, really calling back in your power and inviting it to fill in your back body, your side body, anywhere that's feeling like it wants a little bit more attention here. From this space, we are once again full of our own power. I have this image of going from like a deflated balloon to a nice, like firm, supple, full body balloon we are right now. And before we bring ourselves out of this space, I invite you to just take note of any shifts that you've noticed in your body and how you're feeling. Just take a moment to notice, how do you feel now compared to when we began? And I invite you to take your time here coming back. You can gently blink some light back into your eyes. I like to kind of rub my body, remind myself of my edges, especially after filling myself up like that. Really nice to remember that I am full and I do have an end. And as we come back together, I invite you, give your body what it needs. If it needs some movement, go ahead and move. If you want some water, give yourself that. And if you are a journaler, I invite you to drop into that space and just take note how that felt for you, anything that came up. And if you want to stay just in the body feeling too, that's totally all right. Sometimes after deep embodiment stuff like that, jumping back into the mind space of recording is too much for me, and I just want to feel myself. And before we move forward from that space, I do want to give a little space if anyone wants to name how that felt for them, how you're feeling now compared to before, or any shares on what that experience was like. I welcome that into this space now. Mm-hmm. And you can chat too if voice feels like a lot.
Apparently I gave a thumbs up. I didn't even touch my computer. That's weird.
Yeah, something was like, yeah, I like that.
Yeah. That's interesting. I really enjoyed that. I've been needing that kind of permission to just reclaim and that space. I've been very, with the change of the seasons, I feel my energy shifting constantly, and it's really disorienting. So I'm just, this masterclass is so well timed because I had a chance. I feel like I've had this headache all day, and what that did for me was it diffused the pain. Like it's still there, but it's not as needle sharp, it's kind of a more blunt, easier to handle. That was nice.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. I mean, not that the pain persists, but like,
yeah. It's easy pain.
Yeah, talking about pain, I've been dealing with some pain in my feet, and this really shifted things. I mean, I feel really good now. It's kind of a chronic thing. It's been there for a long time. But I feel like I can handle things now. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, I definitely feel like I wrote down the word like rejuvenating and like nourishing is like how I feel now after doing that. I know I said like low energy, and now I feel like, okay, we got this. It's a day. We're doing it.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Yeah, this was actually an activity that came to me earlier today when I was in my own practice and feeling kind of scattered, and started doing this breath and was like, whoa, I feel so much more myself again. I think when I think of energy medicine and energy healing and what it can really do for us, so much of it to me does feel like this power reclamation, and also an ability for us to really like take charge again of the energy that moves through us and moves around us. Not in a like take charge, like powering over, but take charge, like not letting anything come in. One of the great analogies, like when I think of like what we invite into our body, really is like who do we invite in our house? It's like, I don't invite anyone off the street into my house. And yet with our bodies and with our energies, sometimes without realizing it, we're inviting in so many entities maybe that shouldn't be invited into our energy. And so I really appreciate everyone sharing everything, because to me, this reminds me of just like, that was what, like a 10 minutes of landing, and how much even just that short amount of time can really do for us in shifting our energy and getting us into a different space. I think sometimes there is this kind of like belief that's perpetuated that like, oh, I have to have a huge chunk of time if I'm going to be able to take care of myself or give myself something. I need to have an hour, a weekend, a week. And I love activities like this because it reminds me and kind of builds evidence that like, even if I only have 5 or 10 minutes, there's something I can do for myself to shift my energy, to do something to change my energy. So when we're talking about energy, what comes to mind is just like the universe is energy. Everything is energy. Energy moves through all of us, moves through every living thing. It connects us. It commingles is the word that comes up for me a lot, is our energy is constantly commingling with our physical environment, with the things that we eat, with the people we're around. And as we bring our awareness to our own energy, we can begin to start realizing what things really rejuvenate us, really lift us back up, what things deplete us, and what things kind of drain us. And as we can start noting those things, we can make choices that start to really enliven us. This has been huge for me when I've realized, like going out, for example. There are some people who can go out and socialize, and that really does fill them up, right? The term I think people use is like extrovert, but like on a personal level, like I can be really depleted. And so when I realized that, I stopped feeling guilty for saying no to friends when they would invite me out a lot, because it was like, oh, I know myself a little more. I'm going to say no to this thing. And so there feels like a permission as we get to know ourselves on what we bring into our lives, what we bring into our bodies, and what we don't, what we say no to. And I guess not just permission, but also there's like a sense of like certainty, where sometimes like I think of foods, like this has been a big one that I think a lot of people are becoming more aware of like what we eat and how does that impact how we feel. And so people who are making very conscious choices to like cut out maybe sugars or caffeine or insert different foods that they notice, oh, when I eat this thing, I feel tired. And so I say these things to say that working with our energy is very much like a coming back into a relationship with ourselves, because we're beginning to just notice how things land with us. I think in our world, our like mainstream world, there isn't always like permission to take that time to notice how something lands with us, right? We're rushing here, we're rushing there. And for me, I feel like energy healing has given me permission to take time to say, let me let this digest and see how I feel after it's digest, rather than feeling like I need to like rush to make a decision. Even when I think of like the seasons, right? Like we're moving into fall, like there is this like simultaneous like harvest season. We're like, you know, getting all of our like delicious things that we're going to eat. And there's also this, the word retreat comes to mind, right? Where the leaves fall off and the energy kind of goes within. And I think when we give ourselves permission to kind of like let go of some of the external things, like the leaves, maybe we can get a little bit more clear of our own energy, our own intention. The other thing about energy I think is really poignant is energy can't necessarily be destroyed. It can be transformed, it can be depleted, it can be regenerated, but it can't be just totally destroyed. And so I think of this even with like how our digestive system works, right? When we choose, I was talking about food before, when we choose to eat something, the life force, the energy of that plant, that animal, that fruit gets eaten and becomes a part of us. It's transformed into life force energy that nourishes us. And then theoretically, if our source systems were different, like what we're done with, we give back to the earth. And that then is transferred into energy that will feed the earth and feed the plants. And this cycle continues. And so I think that's like a really great kind of visual for understanding that like this energy doesn't get destroyed, it just gets transformed. And so when we're talking about the energy within us, activities like that breath work can be really potent in helping to kind of reclaim the space that we want within our bodies, rather than letting, I guess, like other people kind of implant their ideas, their beliefs, their stuff inside of us. When we do that kind of breath work, we invite in our energy to fill our space. So again, it can't be destroyed, but it can be transformed. And all of us have this ability, this alchemy, this ability to transform our energy. One of the big ones I think that has been kind of circulating in a lot of circles right now is this energy of love, right? How are we kind of like embodying more of this like love energy versus what I see a lot in this world is more like maybe like judgment, kind of like domination kind of energy versus this like cooperative, collaborative love energy. And so that theme has been kind of around, I guess, me a lot. I've been thinking a lot about what does it mean to keep my energy rooted in love? And it's really easy to say that. It's really hard to like do that at a consistent basis to keep our energy rooted in love. And so I think that, you know, one of my favorite ways of working with Reiki specifically that has helped me to stay rooted in love is Reiki energy has been described as the energy of unconditional love. So it is the energy of unconditional love. And so working with it then gives me a sort of access to this energy that isn't always around, right? Like, I think there's a lot of humans on this planet who've never felt what unconditional love feels like. There are some of us who like, we maybe think we know what unconditional love feels like, but then there are maybe some strings attached. It can be really hard. Like, we're human, we have our own, stuff. It can be hard to know what that energy feels like. But being in relationship with the Reiki energy has really enabled me to kind of access that energy in a way that I don't think would just have been, well, I'll restate, it wouldn't have been accessible if I hadn't developed that relationship there. And it started with just getting Reiki sessions from someone that helped me to just feel so much more relaxed and at peace with who I was, which sounds so like simple, I guess. Like, sometimes when I say, oh, to be relaxed or to be at peace with myself, there's something really radical about that in a world that is very fast paced, very chaotic, in a world that would prefer that we don't love ourselves, because then it's easier to sell us stuff, honestly. And so being able to be in relationship with an energy that can help me build and restore my own love for myself has been really powerful. Let me see what else my notes here had about. Yes, so I've talked a lot of words, said a lot of things about energy healing. Are there any questions that are stirring in anyone right now? And if not, that's totally cool too.
Well, I'm thinking about the energy of pain.
Mm-hmm.
That, I mean, it's like part of being a human.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and I'm trying to make peace with that. Or, you have anything to say about that?
Yeah, I'll say that, like, yeah, yes, I feel like it is like suffering and pain are kind of part of the, I don't want to say like agreement, like it's part of being embodied that we will experience pain because of these bodies of ours. I'll also say that in energy healing, like, pain to me has often like immersed as something that's really trying to get my attention, like something that's like, Kristen, like, hey, like, you've been ignoring me, you've been like, going too hard, or whatever it is. And a lot of times it feels like something that's calling for my attention. In energy healing as well, like, pain is also seen as like dense energy. So like places where like there's a blockage and energy cannot flow properly. And so within specifically like traditional Chinese medicine that really has a deep rooted understanding of energy healing, like when there is an illness, it's often like, okay, so where's the energy block in the body is often where like diagnostic stuff will go, which I think is a really interesting way of thinking about embodied pain, because I don't see that a lot within like Western traditions of like this understanding that like is something blocked that needs to be cleared so that the energy can flow a little bit more better. And so that I think is really interesting. I also I really think that pain more often than not is really trying to call our attention to something. It almost like, there's an analogy that someone gave once that was talking about, so if our body is like an ecosystem, and so there's essentially, it's like a team, everyone's working together to like get stuff done for us. And one part of the body starts working really, really hard. And I think of like a group project, right? Sometimes in group projects, like the work isn't evenly distributed and there's one person who's doing all the work and they're like doing everything. Often that person, or I would hope that that person would like advocate for themselves and be like, hey, I'm doing all the work here, like something's got to give. And someone translated that to the body as well, that sometimes like our pain points are not like that's the part that something is happening. They're like overcompensating for some other part of the body. And they're like, hey, I'm working too hard. Can you readjust your hips so that your back, like, I know that's my big one, is my hips get out of alignment. And then I get weird like back stuff. And it took some time for me to realize, oh, it's not necessarily my back that's the problem. It's the fact that my hips aren't aligned. And so it's causing some weird stuff in my back. And so that was a really like radical shift for me of thinking of pain, where it's like, oh, it's not just this one place. It's like it's like the whole team, like that pain point is taking on too much work. Yeah. So it's, again, there's no like easy, I wish like there was like an easy, like, phew, no more pain. But I do think that like, especially since both you and Vic like shared the way in which pain was like dissipated or alleviated a little bit just through breath work and energy work, I think speaks to just the way that this could really support us as we learn to move through, mitigate, and live with just the pains of being in these bodies, in these meat sacks, as one of my friends used to call them. Like, yeah. So let me think. I'd like to do another activity here to do some moving our energy and kind of rooting back into love. You can stay seated, you can lay. I'm feeling like my body wants to move a lot, so I'm going to stay seated, but I'm going to move a little bit probably. All right. So I invite you to just tune back into yourself again here. Let your eyes close if that feels right. You can put hands on body if that feels good. We're going to connect with our breath once again, and we're going to give ourselves some kind of movement. Maybe that's just wiggling our toes. Maybe that's a gentle swaying. Maybe it's just fluttering our eyes or opening our mouth really wide. Just going to let our bodies move a little bit here. And as we drop into our body and give ourselves a little movement and a little breath, I'm going to invite in the energy of a river. I personally live very close to the Mississippi River, a great and mighty river. And I'd like us to just use our imagination to imagine that our bodies too are like a river. That energy is flowing up, up, up from our feet, all the way up our legs, all the way up to our core, flowing out through our arms. Energy is moving in through the top of our head, flowing down, down, down towards our core, maybe all the way out through our legs. Breathing here, really embracing this energy of the river, this energy of flowing water, allowing the energy of our own body to flow like that river. Mighty, ever flowing, ever changing. And as this energy flows through us, I invite us to surrender just a little bit more into this energy. Maybe willingly allowing anything that you'd like to release to be given to that current flowing out of you, giving back to the earth, giving back to the river. Energy flowing down our backs, down our sides. And as we really embrace this energy of the river and surrender a little bit more into the current of our own energy, I invite you to call in a wish, a dream, a desire that's been maybe sitting with you for some time. Call in that dream and invite it to flow to you and flow through you, becoming one with the river energy that is you. There's nothing you need to do here. Just allow that dream that desire, that wish to flow through the current that is you. Moving through your arms and your core, through your legs and your hips, all the way down to your feet, where that dream leaves you and connects with the river of life. It's still a part of you, it still is you, it's just expanding beyond you now. Being given over to the river of life, this river that flows within and around all of us, that is us. Our dreams commingle there, our wishes commingle there, meld to become one, to be given life, to be given their own life. Surrendering our dream to this current of life, trusting that it will flow exactly where it needs to flow and come back to us in the perfect time and the perfect way, bringing with it all of those who need to travel with us. From this space, still connected to that river of life, still connected with our own inner river, I invite a message or a nugget of wisdom that wants to come through from this river energy, from this river energy that is our own energy, from this river energy that is all of life. I invite a message or a kernel of wisdom to make itself known to you here. Let that kernel of wisdom float in your awareness and then sink into your depths to stay with you on your riverbed for the remainder of your journey here. I invite forward any other wisdom that wants to make itself known to you here. And from this space, I invite that current to bring you back to yourself, back to your body, back to your space, back to this current moment. And as you land back in your body, this current of energy still moving through you, I invite you to imagine that your body is like a beautiful river bend. Your body is like the base of the river, the edges of the river, giving your flow, your creative power containment. Your body are the banks of the river, the edges of the river. And within this beautiful body of yours is contained your personal river and the river of life. Flowing within you, pulsing within you, able to overflow at any moment and yet held sacred within this beautiful vessel that is your body. The banks of the river. Mm. Mm. From this space, I invite you to connect in with where you're being held now. Letting your awareness drop to where you're being held, letting your awareness come back to the felt sensation of this moment, of this space. Sending gratitude to the seat that holds you or the bed that cradles you. Letting yourself become aware once again that this beautiful body of yours is being held, that the river flowing within you has containment and support. And as you feel ready, I invite you to come back into this space, blinking light back into your eyes, bringing movement back into your body, taking the time that you need to come back, to move, to flow. Mm. 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 Give us a few moments to land here. Feel free to make note in your journal of anything that might have occurred for you there, anything that might have come up.
Be like water, my friend. You shall find a way around or through it when nothing within us stays rigid. We decide the shape we're in. Empty your mind. Be shapeless, formless, like water. It can flow or it can crack. And we design the ways we give. We decide the shape we're in, the ways we give. We decide the shape we're in, the ways we give. Be like water, my friend. You shall find a way around or through it when nothing within us stays rigid. We decide the shape we're in.
All right. Well, I want to make some space if anyone wants to share with voice or in chat how that felt for them, anything that might have come up or come through.
Yeah, it was really powerful for me. the part that was really amazing was that your body was the river bank. It was contained. I mean, I really got it. And you know, the message I got was really supportive of that, because it was, you know, my dream, it was just telling me it's coming, brave, courageous love, it's coming. And it told me to have fun and be playful and joyful. And to me, that is telling me to contain that, knowing that it's going to happen, and that, you know, just to contain that. And that image of the riverbed was beautiful. And I live near the Mississippi too. I live in southern Illinois, near Cape Girardeau. So
I love that.
I know that flowing, it's real. And I've swam in that river. It's really strong, really strong.
Wow, yeah, I've always wondered if folks ever did swim in the Mississippi, because I was like, that's almost scary.
They don't, you know, I live out in the country and stuff, and they don't even have that swimming place anymore. They don't let people swim anymore. But when, you know, 20 years ago when I moved here, we were able to go there. So I got to feel that. And I often envision the waters. And that's one of the stronger waters I envision when I'm trying to do that. Yeah. Sometimes I just want a little flowing. Sometimes I need whoosh.
Yeah, I grew up next to Lake Michigan. And so going from Lake Michigan to the Mississippi on an energy level was just so different, because of the just the mighty movement in the river is like, woo.
I grew up on Lake Michigan too, in East Chicago, Indiana, near Gary.
Nice.
Anyway, this is great, Kristen. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
I definitely had a similar experience with the riverbanks. You know, it really kind of, it still impresses me whenever we do our visualizations and things like that, how much I can feel it, and feeling like the river energy coursing down my body. And then when you said riverbanks, it really felt even more kind of channeled. So it was really left an impact. And I think honestly, that's probably the first time I've relaxed in a long time. Just like feeling my energy go one way, you know, just instead of like that. So
yeah.
The
definitely.
message that came for me was to wait, and it's okay to go slow. I feel like I need to remind myself that every day, because you know, I've been programmed to believe that I have to go after what I want. And you just, sometimes you're so blind if you just keep going forward, and you never stop to look around and just be for a minute. So
yeah, thank you. And I love that too, because like it makes me think, I looked up recently, it takes one drop of water 90 days to travel from the top of the Mississippi all the way to the bottom. And so it takes 3 months for the water to move down there. And I think thinking of that reminds me of what you were saying, of like the slow moving, of like moving at our own pace, where it's like, you know, in our world, like 3 months seems like a really long time, but to let ourselves really take time, that's just like the way of it. In nature, it seems, you know, even when there's this constant movement, it still takes 3 months for that to travel. And so giving ourselves permission to take the time it takes, and not like getting upset at ourselves that it takes so long, when it's like, it's just the time it takes. Like,
yeah. And like even the change of the seasons, I keep talking about, you know, I've never got to experience the change of the seasons from day to day. And here in New York, for whatever reason, I had to go to this giant urban metropolis and be in the parks to actually experience, you know, the change one day to the next. The monarchs have migrated, you know, and the flowers in the garden, they're all blooming at different times, and the nature of the light is changing. And it's just this very gradual process of the season. changing, and I feel that in myself, and it's almost like maddening. It's frustrating how slow it is, but it's not something I'm not aware of, you know, because it is so slow. So I have to be okay with it.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so it's interesting because I feel like I had like similar experiences to like both of what you two just said, but like somewhere in the middle, which is interesting because I got a like slow down. The message I got was like allow, and then I got let it be, which then of course also played the lyrics of the Beatles song in my head for a minute before I refocused. But then I saw myself, I was like on like a river raft floating, which for me evokes like fun, like adventure memories. And we got to like a rapids area and I didn't have an oar, but I didn't, and there were like rocks and stuff, but the current just took me perfectly around like the rocky areas, and then I didn't hit any obstacles, and then made it through to like really calm waters where like the fall colors were showing and like the light was hitting perfectly and there were like birds chirping. Yeah, and so it just like was a kind of a reminder for me of like I don't need to force or rush, which is funny because I was going through rushing rapids, and that then I can still get to spaces where I will be like seen and held and like loved, nourished, all these other lovely things. So it was kind of an interesting mix of both.
I love that. And I love that image of like just being guided through the river. I'll say that's always been when I'm invited to like surrender, let go. It often is like river energy that comes to me of like my stubborn self trying to like swim upstream and force it. And it's like, no, it would be way more fun if you just let the river carry you. So that's been my like stubborn journey to be like, okay, the river can carry me. I trust it. I'll flow with life. I'm really glad that landed well with everyone today. Yeah, I love connecting in with nature to help kind of like guide our energy. I feel like there's so much powerful energy around us on this planet that we can tap into to help ourselves make tangible this really intangible thing that is energy. All right, so we're coming towards our end. So I'm gonna just use this time to do a little plugs for myself. So if you've really liked this space and you want to learn more about working with energy or working with breath work, I have an upcoming course that starts not this Wednesday, but the following Wednesday on the 13th. It is similar to courses I've done before. Erica and Vic, you both were at I dropped the registration link in the website. You both were at my Root into Your Power workshop from a couple months ago. This one's going to focus specifically on breath work and embodiment. So the last one we did some stuff on creative expression and some movement. And this one we're going to really just focus on getting in our bodies and using our breath. So again, those are our Wednesdays, 4 Wednesdays starting the 13th. And if you really like this space and you want to work with me one-on-one, I'm going to drop in my Calendly link. I do Reiki sessions, I do coaching sessions. A lot of my work is really in a birthing stage. So when a lot of new stuff is coming. So if you're feeling like you really liked this, and you want to work with me one-on-one, I would love to connect with you. Those are the two big things I have coming up. I will be having another Reiki training starting in sometime before the end of the year, to be determined. Again, Reiki is best known as a hands-on healing technique. I think of it as more of a relationship with spiritually wise life force energy. And I tend to teach it in a much more intuitive way than a lot of teachers. And I do it online. So that's really fun. But yeah, so if you're interested in Reiki or you really just like being held in space with me, I'd love to see you in the Root into Your Power class, or I will continue doing these master classes. So I hope to see you there. Yeah, that's what I got. I'd love to continue working with all of you. Yeah, I love being able to create space for us to really just get embodied and reattune to our energy. I think that so often this world wants us to look outside of ourselves for the answers that we seek. And I really do think that we have the answers within us, and that we are on a journey to remember the wisdom that lives within our own bodies. And so I'm really glad to help folks on that awakening, that remembering. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and stop the recording. For anyone who tuned in not live, we love you, and get in touch with me.